Hello again. This is FSH Society's Story Time with Belinda Miller. I'll be reading again from Winterfrost, the first book in the series Philip's Quest. Enjoy! Chapter 10, The Farmer's Market, Part 1. The final portion of the trip would be easygoing. The road was nicely warm and smooth. The car rolled much easier since they were mostly headed downhill. Usually at this stage of the journey, they met other gnomes from Twisted Oak, who were also on their way to the market. Traveling with others was so much more enjoyable. It made time pass more quickly. On this trip, they ran into the Ragwort family. They were a fairly new family in the village, a distant cousin to the Tudors, but a Tudor nevertheless. They rode along in a wagon that was covered in a bright green canopy. It was told by Mr. Ragwort and his son, Christopher. Mrs. Ragwort, Holly, traveled in the cart with the two little Ragworts, Nick and Sammy. Holly had her hands full with 3 boys in the house. She loved to knit and was very excited to purchase some new yarns and needles at the farmer's market. To sell at her own booth, she had brought hats, scarves, and blankets. Mr. Ragwort, well, no one was sure what Mr. Ragwort did, but he seemed nice enough, just a little strange. The youngsters were after toys. The older boy, Christopher, was after girls. Once they had exchanged their bags and handshakes, Holly had traveled with Ivy and invited her to sit with her in the wagon. "Oh, he won't mind a bit," remarked Holly. "You're such a tiny little thing. He'll never know the difference." Philip stopped his cart to help Ivy in. "Up you go," said Philip. Mr. Ragwort had a pipe hanging from his mouth, but it wasn't lit. "Can I offer you some of my favorite smoke, Mr. Ragwort?" asked Philip. "I wouldn't mind having a little draw myself." Mr. Ragwort widened his eyes and nodded his head. "Why, thank you, Philip. I do appreciate your kindness." Philip opened up his pouch and dipped out some smoke for Mr. Ragwort. The older gnome gently tacked it down and took a light from Philip. He nodded his head again and grunted in appreciation. The 2 gnomes pulled away on their pipes and continued on down the road without saying a word. The farmer's market was right around the next bend. They could already hear the sounds of hammering nails and the general buzz of setting up. It was actually the perfect time to reach the fairgrounds. They would have plenty of time to set up their stands, meet some folk, and eat a good dinner, and then go to bed. A few times during the years past, Philip and Ivy had arrived on the morning of the market, scrambling into the grounds to set up their tent and booth before the festivities began. This trip, however, they had it made. They could take their time unpacking all the gear and setting up their tents. Since Ivy and Holly got along so well, they decided to set their stands next to each other. That suited Philip just fine. As soon as they had met up with the Ragworts, he had hoped that Ivy could travel back to Twisted Oak with them. Holly would be good company for Ivy, and he could tell that Ivy loved the children. Maybe someday they could even have children. Someday. The men and Squirrel set up the stands and tents and made sure that they were good and sturdy. Edward helped tie up all the knots. He was a great knot tyer and ran up and down the lines, checking every single little knot. Holly let the children run for a while to catch a sharp eye on them. The surrounding landscape was green and happy. But they were still a good way from home. "Christopher," she yelled, "make sure you stay with the little ones." "Yes, ma'am, I will," he said as they all ran off. The two families decided to slowly unload the cart and wagon and sleep in front of their stands. They placed the cart to the right of Phyllis and Ivy's stand, and the wagon to the left of the Ragwort stand. It made for a cozy and safe little cluster where they could sleep. They built a fire in front of their tents and enjoyed each other's company. Now and then, other vendors would stop by to say hello and have a drink. They had many fine conversations that night. They learned about news in the village of Drokensville and a bit gossip from Woodgate. After a while, around midnight, Philip had grown tired of the chit-chat and curled up in the blanket. He didn't sleep very well that night and kept hearing all kinds of strange noises. He chalked them off to his imagination because everyone, including Edward, was sleeping soundly. He was tired from the trip and all the setting up. Ivy had even made him a nice cup of tea, but he could not sleep. Having woken up so many times during the night, he finally sat up and walked up to the crest of the grassy hill next to their tents. A chorus of chirping crickets sang to each other in the starry darkness. Philip peered up into the night sky and saw the big orange moon peering down at him. It was the last night of the full moon. He looked up to Aquarius, and there it was, stars as vivid and blue as ever. He was sure the warlock was watching. "Good morning, fine sir," boomed a deep voice. Philip started and almost jumped out of his little boots. "What on earth was that?" he cried. "Turn around, you silly little gnome," said a different voice. Philip turned and realized that he was looking into the eyes of a giant face in a tree. A forest father. Its bright blue eyes blinked and glared. It had a long, curly wooden nose with a big knot on the end. It looked like a large wart. A little red bird sat on the knot. "Hey, gnome, come here," said the bird. Philip grimaced. Talking birds are not his favorite creatures. "Yes," he responded. "I want to ask you something," continued the bird. "Have you noticed any peculiar or strange people since you've been here At the market. Phyllis sighed. You mean strange, like a talking bird that sits on the top of the tree man's nose? No, no, not strange like that, replied the bird. Strange, like trouble. Have you seen any troublemakers or curious folks around? What is this bird going on about? Thought Philip. Nay, sir, I haven't seen anything of the sort. Just tents and carriages and gossip about some lady's half-brother's dog in East Toadshire, replied the gnome. The bird gave a little snort and flew over the tree's ear. It whispered something, and the great tree grumbled and nodded. They appeared to be having a deep discussion. Who knew how long this would take? Philip yawned. He didn't have time for this nonsense. Very well, then, he said, and walked down the hill to try to get a few more hours of sleep. Before he knew it, everyone was bustling about and making noise. It was very early, and the sun was already up. Ivy sat next to him, holding a cup of hot something and some tater biscuits. Philip sat up and rubbed his eyes. That smells delicious. What is it? He asked. Don't quite remember what it's called, but it starts with a C, responded Ivy. Holly said she got it last year from some of the dwarves who live in the south. She said that they had a sunny accent. Tastes good, exclaimed Philip. One must always be open to new things, dear Ivy. There's a whole other world out there, waiting to be explored, just as Great-Grandpa and Great-Grandma Tudor found out. For one to grow, one must explore. What on earth are you dazzling about? Responded Ivy. She was a bit dazzled by the new rhetoric coming from Philip, who had hardly spoken a peep throughout the whole trip. Where was this coming from? My dear Ivy, I had hoped so much that Sallow would show up on our doorstep and be here with us at the market. But that was just not to be. I miss him and fear for his life. Oh no, Ivy was afraid of where this was going. Had Philip already read the letter from the Blue Witch? He couldn't have. It was sealed when she had it and threw it in the ashes. She felt sick to her stomach, but she let him continue to speak. I am so happy to be here with you, my love, but you know I've been restless. I haven't been sleeping well since I received a letter and a visit from the Blue Witch. Yes, I know about the letter, but even if I did not, the warlock still came to visit with me and told me of my quest. Ivy was stunned. For the first time since their wedding, she was at a loss for words. A visit? When? She hadn't seen or heard anything since she left. And certainly she would have. Oh, my boots and breeches. That night that Philip did not come to bed. Oh, my boots and breeches. Her heart sank. A quest? Ivy managed to squeak. Please tell me. I have dreaded this day. but knew it was coming. What is it? I must travel to the Blue Witch's castle. For now, that is all I know. Please believe that my heart aches to leave you, dearest one. I've been struggling with this decision the entire trip, as I'm sure you've noticed. But I must go. I must. The warlock said that terrible things are coming, and we must be prepared. And more importantly, I must find out about my brother. He paused and ran his hands through his beard. After the market, you'll go back to Twisted Oak with the Ragworts. They will help and protect you along the road. Christopher will be very close every day and help you around the farm. He is a good boy and is eager to learn. Philip couldn't believe that he had blurted all of this out. Well, when will you leave? How long will you be gone? The tears were already welling up in Ivy's eyes. Soon, after the market's over, he replied. Hopefully, I'll be back after I visit the Blue Witch and hear some news. Philip really didn't believe that. He was going to leave during the first day of the market so that he wouldn't have to say goodbye to Ivy. He just couldn't bear it. Yes, Philip, I understand, sighed Ivy. She was devastated. She lowered her head, careful not to look Philip in the eyes, and fiddled with a piece of straw that she had found. Unthinkingly, she had made it into a little heart and handed it to Philip. I understand, she repeated. With that, she stood up and walked away. It was Philip who started to cry. What had he done?